I might have overpaid for Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. Despite owning the 2020 version of the game and being eligible for the PS5 upgrade, I splurged for the physical copy. Next generation game prices are still something to get used to, but the allure of adding another PS5 game, and one of my favorite titles at that, to my collection was too much to bear. Truthfully, Intergrade is a modest upgrade at best. FF7 Remake was already a visually stunning and tactilely enjoyable experience the first time around, so the updated version doesn't need much more to carry the mantle. The addition of graphics and performance mode is a welcome update. I don't have a 4K TV, but the performance mode 60 FPS is a refreshing nuance for a player coming from a base PS4. The ray-traced lighting is also a showstopper, depending on how much of a geek you are. I spent more than a few minutes rotating Cloud in front of fires and neon to see how these lights illuminate our spiky-haired protagonists. But beyond the eye candy, Intergrade is what you've come to expect from Square Enix. Regardless of what you think of a series called Final Fantasy, which includes 15 main entries of varying quality, visual presentation is without question always a strong point. The higher price tag does have at least one added benefit, the Intermission DLC. Realistically, I should have purchased it at a discount. It's only $20 on PS5 if you buy it digitally. Having finished the game in about 5 hours, the downloadable content is well worth the upcharge, if only for the way the updated original soundtrack reinvigorates the dying city of Midgar. Intermission picks up the Final Fantasy VII Remake story right around Chapter 8. Players control Yuffie Kisaragi, a ninja from the neighboring nation of Wutai who, like Barret, Tifa, and Cloud in the first game, has her own reasons for wanting to dismantle the Shinra Power Electric Company. At face value, Intermission is more the same stellar remake gameplay. Yuffie has her own abilities, which, if I'm entirely honest, might be the most intricate use of Remake's combat system. In addition to using her shuriken in melee combat, Yuffie can, throw it, which allows her to use elemental ninjutsu magic at a distance. Add to that her ability to combo attacks with her partner, Sonon Kusakabe, and Intermission establishes itself as an even more in-depth combat system despite featuring a single playable character. Yuffie also brings a new tone to the game's story. Just 16 years old, Yuffie parades around her Moogle hood and cloak. Despite trying her best to be an adult, her childish tendencies, from practicing her introduction speech on the way to meet Avalanche in Sector 7,
My name is Yuffie, materia hunter and elite special forces operative for the new Wutai government. I have orders to infiltrate Shinra headquarters and steal their ultimate materia. To prove to our common enemy that Wutai is not to be trifled with. Members of Avalanche! With your full support, we got this! So, members of Avalanche, where are you?
to the way she plops down on benches to take a rest, are a defining aspect of her character. These touches change the way I experience the Sector 7 stomping ground. NPCs make lighthearted comments about the strange girl who is Moogle chic, which is a shift from the doom and gloom surrounding Cloud Strife. Pair that with Intermission's new soundtrack, and Midgar becomes a world worth exploring for another few hours. The Intermission soundtrack isn't as simple as updating old tunes, though the game makes a point of interlacing the sector theme in new ways. Really, it's about adding brand new tracks that spruce up areas of the slums. One of the early missions sees Yuffie collecting posters for the Happy Turtle, a chain of bars that originated in her home nation Wutai. As clues to find the posters, the bar owner placed gramophones playing advertisements around the town. These aren't just commercials, they're full-on songs that work the Happy Turtle brand into a variety of genres. The cut that plays when Yuffie is trying to sneak past Marl's dog at the apartments is a lovely doo-wop ditty that sounds ripped right out of a 1950s jukebox. This track is especially neat because it's a two-parter. There's a slower ballad-like section, and a swing up-tempo side as well. When she heads to the Talagar factory, a death metal variant plays, complete with lyrics about turning up and getting harried at the bar. This one might be my favorite of the bunch. Square certainly didn't pull any punches when it came to composing an authentic sounding track, electric guitar and all. Though this is a throwback to collecting records in the first game, these musical additions go beyond remixing classic tunes and styles. This music establishes the world of Gaia and the city of Midgar as having a culture and sense of world building that exists beyond the ever-present threat of Shinra's atrocities. Listen to the funk version of the Happy Turtle theme. The synth rhythms and distorted vocals are a surprisingly accurate nod to the P-Funk of the 70s. Within the context of the game, it makes sense. Midgar is a thriving metropolis. As early as Chapter 1 of the first game, you can see signs for a record store. In other words, the city has all the staples of what you'd find IRL, and music is a huge part of that. Composers Nobuo Uematsu, Masashi Hamauzu, and Mitsuo Suzuki also press onward with touring with area music. Square's composers aren't strangers to genre diversity, with the Chocobo themes being some of the most thematically disparate songs across the series. Intermission builds off that practice by turning expectations about what Final Fantasy should sound like on its head. The OST's deft ability to match the game's areas is due in part with how each area theme is composed. According to Hamauzu in a 2020 interview with Famitsu, a majority of the songs are made in a seamless way by partitioning a song into multiple parts that can be connected anywhere. This is reflected in battle themes, which add a high-octane instrumentation to existing area melodies, to add musical flair without diverting from songs that are already playing. Old-school Final Fantasy games saw the music cut off and begin playing each time players entered a new area or scene. But here, while Yuffie and Sonon creep around the Shinra basements for example, songs play interchangeably as the two solve puzzles and pass battle tests. The best example of this comes when Yuffie and Sonon chase Jijia through the shipping facility. At first, a funky jazz track plays, rife with guitars and a frenetic drum line. Then, when Yuffie and Sonon ride the conveyor belt, it seamlessly transitions into a drum solo, almost like a sort of loading sequence before the next main track begins. That breaks out into an even livelier jazz cut, this time featuring a greater focus on the saxophone and electric organ. The keys right before the song loops are so good, really reminiscent of something Shoji Meguro would compose. If that's not enough, the scaffolding section of that same area introduces another track. This one is a brass trio that's introduced by a drum and bass duo. This is easily the most progressive soundtrack I've ever heard in Final Fantasy history. The way Uematsu, Hamauzu, and Suzuki interlace songs is mind-blowing. Intermission still appeals to Final Fantasy traditionalists. The Centipede boss earns a typical, grandiose operatic arrangement as Yuffie and Sonon coordinate attacks against its head, tail, and its drones. Shortly after, Jijia and Simon's cheesy fist bump is met with an even cheesier pop rock track that wouldn't be out of place in, say, Sonic Adventure. The game also carries emotional integrity. When Yuffie begins her infiltration of Shinra, things sound ominous. that quickly breaks away into a more quizzical piece as Yuffie tries to make heads or tails of where the ultimate materia is being kept and what powers it'll bestow. I also want to point out Yuffie's battle theme. It's introduced early on, and by using a wide range of instrumentation, I'm talking keys, woodwinds, strings, brass, it evokes a fresh feeling of starting on a brand new journey.
You're going down! All in a day's work.
Unlike the first game, which began with the tension of a bombing mission, Yuffie's adventure is more whimsical and filled with wonder. Other little musical nods include things like the distinct drum sound effect that plays to emphasize Yuffie and Sonon's ninja-ness.
I'm looking forward to working with you, boss.
As I said, the world of Final Fantasy VII is huge, and as such, there are a variety of cultures. The old English town of Calm is drastically different from the cyberpunk metropolis of Midgar. Thus, little tidbits like using specific drum sounds or musical styles really help play up the game's sense of scale and Yuffie's unique characterization. Tetsuya Nomura commented on the way Intermission brings Yuffie to life in a May 2021 PlayStation blog entry. At the time of the original, and even now, my perspective of her has not changed very significantly. Yuffie is an energetic and straightforward character. When considering Yuffie in a large group, you can't help but notice how energetic she is. But I think she's also a character whose inner workings become more visible the closer you get. If shelling out an extra $40 for DLC wasn't enough, Square Enix might get more money out of me yet. The official integrated soundtrack is up for pre-order. The HD games, 13 in particular, did a great job of featuring music that worked both in-world and in real life. FF7 Integrated Intermission continued that trend, all the while adding a glimmer of light to an otherwise dark Undercity existence. If you made this far in the video, thanks! If you like what you heard or saw, consider dropping a like or subscribing. And always, feel free to leave a comment of what game I should tackle next. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day.